What's up, wild ones? So, there is an inherent unsafety that comes with living in a body of color that very often can be overlooked and gaslighted in the greater society, especially when you know that you have this medicine, this ancient medicine that is riding your bones, something that you know you can't not do, and you have to do it, and it is like part of the reason that you are on this planet at this time. And yet, no matter how many things that you've tried, no matter how many programs and courses and trainings and degrees and certifications and medicine circles and all of the things that you've done, when it comes to actually speaking out and living out the things that this medicine entails, that this medicine holds for you, there's this whoa, right? There's this thing that stops you, this invisible force, and no matter how many people have told you, like, oh, you have to get over your blocks, you've got to work on these things, and it must be this, and it's a fear of this, and it's a fear of success, or it's a fear of failure, it's a fear of you being you, or it's like, oh, you just have to work on your visibility. And it's not that any of those things may not also be true, like, hey, sure, whatever, why not? But until you actually have started to work with the inherent unsafety that comes with being in a body of color in this world, all those other things, what happens is we actually begin to re-encode around that unsafety. And then when we try to force our body, right? When we try to force our body to, okay, now you have to show up and now you have to speak all of these things that for your entire life, everyone has told you it's not safe to do. And things that you have encoded around through your own lived experience. And then also things that have been passed down to you through your blood, through ancestors, through generations. When we're trying to just like force our way through that without actually working with it, what happens is we then reinforce that unsafety within our own body, and we become complicit, right? We become complicit in our own subjugation, because what happens when we force, we're telling our body that we also are not safe, that we also are someone who will go against the resourcing that our body needs, the regulation that our body needs in order to step into that deep medicine. And then we learn to, oh, well, don't trust yourself, right? Like, we can't be trusted. Oh God, right? Which, when you're in a body of color, there's already this societally encoded idea that you are not safe, that you are dangerous, that you are less than, that your voice doesn't matter, that your body is not even your own. And when we then contribute to these things that live in our body with the way that we try to force, and the way that we try to make things happen, and the way that we try to go with what works for everyone else, and we wonder, and we believe that it should work for us, and we should be able to get to a certain thing, and we should be able to move forward in a certain way. And when it doesn't work, when that invisible force comes up again, and we try to just we try to force our way through, or we stick our head in the sand and we're just like, I don't know, and we encode again and again and again that we are not to be trusted, which then goes back to reinforce that inherent sense of unsafety of being in a body of color. And so what it takes is us looking at, like, okay, so hold up, wait a minute, let's actually drop into what's going on here. Whereas we have all these things coming down from family and people who love us, and they're like, oh my God, don't do the thing, do not go into don't go to the light, stay away. But really, like, so many people, they're like, well, maybe you should do this, you should go stick with this is a thing that's safe, this is a thing that hasn't caused harm to people who look like us and people who we have loved. And when we listen, right, or we listen and we've heard that our whole lives, it can be really challenging to step forward into something that is against the grain, and also into something that really did, right? Whether it was one generation ago, maybe it was this actual generation, whether it was 5 generations ago, but it lives in our bodies. When it wasn't safe to step into being a known name, right? really turned on and sexual and sensually alive when that it was not safe. Like really horrific things happened and are still happening. And when we go and we say, but there's this medicine, there is this thing that is, oh God, it's living in us and we can't not do it, and we have to, right? We have to do it. And when we say okay, right, when we say okay, we've got to be willing to work with that threat response that comes up to the inherent unsafety. And if we're not working with that threat response and we're trying to force our way past it, or trying to ignore, or we're trying to pretend it doesn't exist, we simply re-encode and re-encode and re-encode on that old conditioning, on those, on the internalized racism and the systemic trauma that lives in bodies of color. We continuously perpetuate those cycles within our own bodies. And then we don't move forward. We don't see the momentum. We start and we stop. We think, oh my God, it's and we wonder, like, well, why the hell isn't it working? Why is this thing not working? Working. And so it really takes this willingness, right? So one, the awareness, right? Like the awareness, like, oh shit, like this, it's different, right? Like we can say all the things that we want, and we can pretend and we can wish it was a different way. And also there is a systemic, deep encoding of inherent unsafety. And unless you're actually working with that unsafety and incorporating it into the way that you message, into the way that you show up in your life, into the way that you make love, into the way that you choose partners, into the way that you worship, into the way that you live your life, right? The rituals and everything that you do, and until you bring that in, until you acknowledge it and continue to decolonize the way in which you create, the way in which you are here to have an impact in the world, you will continuously go back down that old rabbit hole of showing up and then piecing out on yourself, and then squirreling out, and then wondering what's wrong, and like fighting and forcing, and your body then continues to feel that lack of trust, and that inherent unsafety. And so this is the invitation to go deeper, right? To go deeper and touch the bloody bones, and bring in the ancestral wisdom. Like allow the ancient wisdom that is also inside of you. It's not just inherent unsafety. There's also wisdom there. There's also healing there. And to bring this healing into the way that you show up, in the way that you teach, in the way that you create, in the way that you make love, in the way that you really use your voice and your power, and we integrate throughout our entire bodies, and we bring in pussy and womb space and heart space, and we look at what's happening in our spine and our pelvis, and we learn how to earth and ground, and also regulate in community, because communal regulation, tribal regulation, was something that really was a powerful piece of healing throughout indigenous cultures. And it's something that has been greatly lost, or in today's society has been greatly whitewashed, and bodies of color are then fetishized in communities, in conscious and spiritual communities, and it can only serve to then exacerbate that inherent unsafety of being in a body of color and going into these communities that are very often using indigenous wisdom to create ceremony and create circle, and then bodies of color who come from these indigenous lineages are then like don't even feel safe to actually step into these circles, even when it is our own bloodlines that run through the traditions and the ceremonies that are being held. And so this is the invitation to take back this sovereignty, to take this ownership, this agency of being in your own body, of being in your own skin, and showing up and continuing to show up day after day, night after night, breath after breath, no matter what is happening outside of your body, that you are able to continuously resource and then regulate in community, co-regulate in community, the safety for you to actually remember who the fuck you are, so that you can do what you came here to do in a way that completely turns on your soul and reaches and moves those that you are here to serve. So if that feels like something that resonates for you, if it floats your pleasure boat, then I'd love to have you with us. I'd love to have you jump in, dive in, say yes, and continue saying yes and having that support to be in that yes, to live your yes over and over and over and over again, because that's where the everything shape shifts, right? The abundance, that changes. The intimacy, that changes. The actual message that is born to you, the medicine that is born to you, the way that you share that message, how that message moves into your body, and you're able to yes, get that message out. The energy, everything begins to alchemize and transform once you allow yourself to drop into this agency, this sovereignty, and the safety within your own skin. So this is your identity. This is about your identity, and infusing that, reclaiming that, and allowing that to not only be of service to the world, but also to your own soul. So if that feels like a yes for you, I would love to have you with us. Skin, right? The skin you're in. Ooh, I think that was a commercial. We're not gonna go with that, but it is the skin that you're in, right? Yeah. Let me know if you have any questions. You can always DM me on Instagram. But if not, I'll see you on the other side. I love you all so much. As always, here's to your untaming. Bye, well done.